So if you want us to, get in groups, turn to a partner, stand on our head, whatever you want us to do is fine with me.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thanks. Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
All right, folks, listen, today, before we get started, or thank you for that introduction, because someone probably would have read an introduction. Yep. Before we get started today, I would like you guys to sign in for this workshop so you actually get credit for participating. As you can see from the PowerPoint up there, there is a course code. It's the one with the pound sign there, and I would put it in, whatever the course code is. So I'd like you all to put text that code, that pound sign 56921, whatever it is. Make sure that there's no space between the pound sign and the code. Text it to that number up there, 650-763-2405. Include your first name and your last name so we know who you are, and your email address. And that is so you will have, actually, then you'll have access to the PCA tools. You'll get an account, and you can get access to the Development Zone, which is a platform where we have lots of resources and tools for you to access throughout your coaching. It's very useful. Even me as a college coach, I go back to that now. And you'll also get a weekly, now I'm blanking.
Weekly newsletter, yep.
Yeah, the weekly newsletter that I find it very useful because it comes every week, and it just keeps my mind sort of focusing and thinking about new ideas that go along with our message here, the positive coaching. Your stuff is not shared with anybody else. It's only for the PCA. Don't worry, it's a secure element here, and it's only so you have access to our tools, and we can send you that newsletter. Okay, so you guys take out your phones and do that. I'm going to move on here. So the next slide. So you guys are all here for the Double Goal Coaching workshop, sorry. And this is a workshop. We use the term workshop because we want it to be interactive. It's not a lecture. I'm not up here to just speak to you directly and impart my wisdom into your brain. We know that doesn't actually work in terms of learning. Even me as a college professor now, all of our classes are switching where we get people to interact more because it's more fun and you learn it better. So first off, who is the PCA? Who are we? We are an organization, a nonprofit organization started in 1998 at Stanford University, and we are here to spread the word of positive coaching. Every year we reach 80,000 coaches are trained through workshops similar to this. We reach 3.3 million youth through our program, 2,500 live workshops, again like this, and we have over 1 million visits to the Development Zone, one of those tools that I mentioned to you earlier. Okay, we'll move on. Positive coaching. Okay, so what is positive coaching? The image of positive coaching, everybody may have a different idea, right? But we know that positive coaching these days seems to work. I'm gonna ask you to think about what a positive coach does, what a positive coach looks like. And this is we're going to interact right away here, okay? I'm going to show you two coaches. You think in your head, I'm going to show you two coaches. And you tell me which one you think is the positive coach, okay? This is Coach A. Ready? This is Coach A. Right? And here's Coach B. Ready? Coach B. He's really into it. He's screaming and yelling. Okay, right? Now I want you to think. You're going to clap and whoop. You tell me, which coach do you think is the positive coach? Is it Coach A? Or is it Coach B? Right. The truth is, it's probably both of them, right? The idea is Coach A is really into it, and Coach B is being maybe a little more quiet. But both of these coaches could be teaching their players. Both of them could be winning, right? And that's what we're about. We're about trying to get our players, using positive methods to get them to perform the best. We want to win, right? We're all competitive. I'm super competitive. But we know that doing it in a positive manner instead of negativity will get us there better. So we want to dispel that myth that positive coaching is just about being friendly and nice it's about getting. We can click to the next. I would click the. It's about creating an atmosphere that supports the best possible performance, right? Now, if we have the best possible performance, we are probably more likely to win than we are not. But we also, in the same sense, can teach our kids life lessons. That's one of our big goals here. So at the PCA, we're all about the power of positive. And we can click here. There's a lot of research that shows that the way to go in sports, in business, in life is using positive approaches. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson at UNC, she is a researcher. She has a well-known book called The Upward Spiral, and she researches positivity. Here's a famous quote from her. There's a perception that the best way to get what you want out of employees or players is by negativity or threats. But negativity doesn't work as well as positivity. Positive emotions are especially contagious, and a leader's positive emotions are more contagious than anyone else. She and a host of well-known sports psychologists and psychologists are showing the trend towards positivity as a motivator, as a tool to get what we need from our employees, from our athletes. And the days of the negative screaming coach or derogatory coach, I guess would be a way, are numbered. This article from 2015 in Sports Illustrated, The Last Days of the Abusive Coach. You know, those coaches with the philosophy, we got to break these athletes to build them back up and kick their butt and all that kind of stuff. That is going away. Research shows that it doesn't always work. Now, it doesn't mean negativity doesn't work. Daughter, and she always leaves her underwear on the floor, and I want her to put it in the laundry hamper, and she just won't do it, and I end up losing it and being like, put your underwear in the laundry hamper, and she does it immediately. Because screaming and yelling can get results, but it's not the results we want, because the next day the underwear is on the floor again. That's the same thing with our athletes. You can get them to run down the field fast by screaming at them, but you want to teach them why they should run down the field fast. And you want them to sort of come from inside of them to be motivated to do it. Even elite players and coaches agree with this more positive approach. Our board has these coaches as members. I'm sure some of you in the Boston area, of course, know Brad Stevens and Doc Rivers, dear to our hearts with the Celtics. And the thing is, too, these folks are from different sports: basketball, football, soccer, lacrosse, baseball. These ideas work across all elements. And if these coaches who are winning national championships are agreeing to it, it probably works for us too. Now, back to the negativity. Well-known sports psychologists have shown that negative approaches and negative emotions don't do that well. And one of the things is, an athlete, when they're playing, we want their mind in the moment, right? Like this slide shows here. And when you have a negative approach, when the coach is screaming at and yelling at you, or you're afraid of doing something the coach doesn't want, it distracts you from the task you're supposed to do. For example, Charlie Maher and Ken Ravizzi, these well-known sports psychologists, have shown that negativity distracts from the task. Also, I'm going to bring in my little biology geek here because I'm a biology professor as well as a soccer coach. Does anybody know what the cerebellum is or where it is in your brain? It's right here. You can point to it right here in the back of your head, the cerebellum. Okay? The cerebellum is part of your brain that controls motor coordination and a lot of motor functions, right? And studies have shown, brain scan studies have shown, when subjects are shown images that are negative, are spoken to negative, are like yelled at or demeaned, that the activity in the cerebellum actually slows down. Now, again, the cerebellum is the part that controls your motor activity. You don't want that to slow down in the middle of athletics. So when you're screaming at a kid who's supposed to be running, kicking the ball, jumping, whatever, you're actually slowing the part of the brain that controls what they're supposed to do. So not only do we know from just watching athletes in tasks that negativity doesn't work, we actually have biological evidence that negativity doesn't work. We can go to the next.
Oh, sorry, I'm writing down the statistics.
She's copying your idea for another workshop. I know, Kelly.
So positivity, it works, people. What I'd like to see is a show of hands from everybody who agrees that positivity works better and negativity distracts. You know, I get the people to do that. You know, just an aside for 1 second. As I was going through this, I was with this PowerPoint, that question, you see how it says, do you agree? And then it says, why is there so much negativity? Is it okay if I were doing this, if I made it so that why is there too much negativity pops up after I ask the people? You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Okay.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it work that way, Kelly? Isn't the animation built in so that the question pops up?
It is.
After?
Yep. It is? Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe the one that I have, it didn't.
Okay. But, yeah, but if, go ahead, and if it's not doing that, go ahead and make that adjustment.
This comes up. The question comes up first, and then second, it comes up. Why is there so much negativity?
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, folks, what I'd like you to do, I'll get back in. So, folks, what I'd like you to do is to think about, if we know that the positive approach works so well and is a better way to go, then why is there so much negativity in sports? You know, the headlines about these athletes doing things and these coaches doing things, parents fighting with referees, and all these problems, all this negativity around sports. Why is there so much? And what I'd like you to do is just, we're in a big group here, so we won't move around, but what if you just turn to 2 or 3 people that are right there next to you, and I'm going to give you 20 seconds here, and just try to list off reasons why you think there's so much negativity in sports. So they list them off. And then I would take, you know, Ruben, your group there, why do you think there's so much negativity in sports?
We said lack of self-control. There's a lot of things there's a lot of things we know are better. You know, for example, I know I'm better when I exercise at least 30 minutes a day, but doesn't mean I do it.
Right.
But I know intellectually, all the science, all the studies, all the experiences, I have a better day if I find 30 minutes to exercise, and yet I still don't always do it. Lack of self-control, discipline.
Yep, and that happens. I mentioned it myself. I still yell at my daughter about that underwear, even though I know it's not going to work. You know? Kelly, your group, what did you guys list?
We talked a lot about how the coaches portray themselves. That a lot of coaches, I think, feel that if they're screaming and yelling, they'll be more respected by the players. And, you know, it's almost like an arrogance. Their attitude is, I have to be the one in charge. I have to, you know, don't smile till Christmas. When I say jump, you say how high. You know, I think it's that kind of, they think they have to, that's how they get respect.
Yeah. And I think, too, along that lines, a lot of us probably were coached that way when we were younger. And so we model what we saw. You know, along that lines, Kelly, one of our PCA members who I was just in his thing. I was going to say, he works with youth soccer groups in Atlanta. His group had done a study asking parents. They on purpose had 2 coaches, one coach by screaming and yelling, and one coach more pleasantly, we'll say, or more positively. And they asked the parents which coach they thought was better. And the parents significantly thought the screamy yelly coach was better, even though he wasn't necessarily, they were coaching the same things. So we do have those images. But you know, at the PCA, what we're trying to do is actually change that. We want to change this image of negativity in sports and infuse it with positivity, so we don't have these headlines anymore. Our headlines will be like, you know, kid does great, coach is awesome, instead of coach goes to jail. You know, that's what we want. Can we go to the next?
Yeah.
I'm sort of automatically trying to press the move.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's frustrating.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So the PCA's vision, like I said, is to try to get more positivity in youth sports. It's, you know, youth sports is a huge endeavor in the United States and across the world. We can reach, and what we want to do at the PCA is use the research, the sports psychology research that shows positivity works better. And we want to present best practices of great coaches to develop better athletes and better people. That's our model. Better athletes, better people, right? Now, at first, this might seem a little overwhelming, or I bet too, most of you are coaching, have coached a year, coached more than that, and you have some good ideas already, right? There's no way you got through a year of coaching without figuring something out. In fact, I think the first year you coach kids, you learn more than maybe all the other years because you're just thrown into the fire like that. So a lot of you guys have good ideas already, but what we can do is give you the support so you can to facilitate your ideas and to organize your ideas. Even me with 40 plus coaching years, right? When I first came to the PCA, what happened is a former player of mine attended a workshop and he brought me the book. And he said, "Coach, this book is you. You're doing all these things." And I thought I was all proud of myself, but then I started to read the book and I wasn't doing all the things. And I also saw that it organized my idea and helped me hone my own coaching philosophy. And that's what we're trying to help you do. And so you have support from us, right? We're going to present today a coaching model based on 3 core areas that will help guide your. We'll also give you practical tools in this workshop on the development zone. And also you have the book, this book, and that is probably one of the best tools that you can have. It's a short book. It has great ideas in it. I myself, as a college coach, refer back to that book frequently. I'm good?
Yep.
Okay. So thinking about that, thinking about your coaching makes a great youth sports experience. And why don't I just, give me some hands and I'll pick on a few of you. Ruben, what do you think makes a great youth sports experience for kids?
Quality coaching.
Quality coaching. Anything else?
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
I think fun and friends are the 2 biggest ones for me. I think as long as the kids are having fun and they've got a lot of friends or making new friends on the team, I think that makes the best experience. Yeah,
well, it's funny. Both you guys hit on big things. There's a lot of studies that ask about why kids like youth sports. There's a large study from the University of Michigan, from George Washington University, in the UK, lots of studies. And you know what? The top reasons are always fun, making connections, and learning to improve and working with a coach. And that's what also here at the PCA, that's what our models are sort of built on, right? So a meaningful experience, as you see here, we have listed on our PowerPoint, feeling connected to teammates and coaches. In all the studies that I've seen, that is listed as at least one of the top 3 or 5 reasons kids like to play. Believing they can improve, the same thing in all these studies. Feeling proud about acting with integrity, right? About understanding the game, understanding the rules of the game, and being proud that you didn't have to, cheat or lower yourself, I should say. Along these lines, I want to point out something I'll put my sports psychology professor hat on. There's an interesting study from George Washington University that actually I should mention because we're here in Boston. Also had some folks from BC working with them that interviewed youth soccer players. And essentially it boiled down to, they asked the players to list, they gave them 81 things and asked them to list what were the reasons that they had fun playing the youth soccer. And these things, being part of a team, seeing friends, learning from a coach, getting connected to a coach, improving and having the chance to improve, we're all in the top 5. And you know what winning did? Winning came out at number 48 in the list. The kids, and these were elite club kids, and they put winning at 48 as part of their fun experience. So we know that, winning is important, but it's not everything. Okay, go on.
Mm-hmm.
And these top ideas of being connected, of improving, and of honoring the game, that's what our PCA coaching model is based on. In terms of connected, we have an area called the emotional tank that works with, trying to approach things for our players so they feel connected to other players, to the coach, and even to themselves, so they feel good about their connections. Improving, we have an acronym called the Elm Tree of Mastery that deals with learning and bouncing back from mistakes that we know in sports psychology. Those are 3 elements that help us achieve better skill acquisition. And integrity, honoring, again, we have, our model has something called ROOTS, respect for referees, opponents, officials, teammates, and self. And those are the 3 things that as we go, I will delve into these a little more in detail in this workshop as we go. We have a big impact on our players as coaches. You spend a lot of time with them. And even more so than teachers, some coaches, especially at the high school and middle school level, you spend more time with your students than any one of their teachers does, right? And sometimes even more than some parents do because they're working so much. So you have a big impact. And that legacy, what will kids remember about you, is something you should think about. Here, this video of Herm Edwards, who was a former NFL coach and a player as well, he talks about understanding your legacy. And this is something I think it's great for coaches to put in their mind. So we play the video.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. He does this thing.
Yep.
I love that when he says, when the book of your life is written, what will it say that you made a difference, right? Because it won't. Do you think a kid is going to remember, that they won on Wednesday, the February 12th? But they will remember if you screamed and yelled at them and embarrassed them. Or they will remember if you encouraged them or put them in the game, even though maybe they weren't, the best player to be in there at the time, but you wanted to make sure they got playing time. What do you think will happen? I have a story of this. Where I grew up, my father started the youth soccer program. And I was a super competitive kid. I mean, Candyland, I'd throw the board across the table if I wasn't winning. And he started the youth soccer program. Now, in his mind, he started it because he wanted kids to play. He was a phys ed teacher. He was actually involved in hockey and baseball and basketball too, but he thought soccer could get more kids involved. So he started the program. It went from 300 people the first year to 1,000 the next year to 3,000 in 4 years. A lot of kids playing, and I was like, Dad, especially when I got older, like when I was in high school, I'm like, let's make some competitive clubs. You can make more money. We can get players from different towns to come in and play with us, and we can win championships and you can make money for all that time you're putting in and everything, right? And my dad was like, no, I just want the kids to play, and I want to play. And, and it sounds all nice and good, but I was like, come on, we could be making a lot of money and we could win championships. He died a few years ago. And it was amazing. At his wake, this is a small town. This isn't huge. Less than 30,000 people in the town. There were hundreds of people down the sidewalk at his wake. And at his funeral, a Catholic church on a Thursday morning was packed. It was packed. And we got tons of letters and people saying, from actually all over the country, hey, you know what? Your dad was great. I remember that time I was just this little kid, and he always let me play basketball, even though I wouldn't have made the team at the high school. And I coach my kids today, and I try to do what your dad did. Mm-hmm. And I think about that legacy, and that's worth any of the money and any of the championships. Nobody wrote and said, hey, you remember that time we won the championship? Mm-hmm. They all wrote more about the personal and positive emotions. So, I kind of use that guide myself, just like what Herm Edwards is saying here. Okay, so let's go to the next. So our coaching model here is a double goal coach. What we're trying to do is we are striving to win, because we know that the positive approach should help our kids get better skills and learn the game better. But at the same time, if it's positive, we can also be teaching life lessons. And in fact, and I would press it and they sort of merge, right? If we are having this positive approach, it does both at the same time, almost organically, right? Our kids learn to get better, but they learn to get better on the field, but they also learn to get better as people. Like I said before, better athletes, better people. And this tool, youth sports, is a huge tool to teach life lessons And that's what we're trying to do here. And hopefully as we move on, the next 3 sections will give you the tools to be able to, keep this positive message going forward. Okay.
Click.
You want me to go through these, or?
Nope, that's it.
What'd you say?
Okay. That's it. That's the end of the first part.
Great. I don't even know how long that was.
It was like 26 minutes. That's not too bad.
Okay.
I mean, considering you never timed yourself before, that's pretty good, Scott. How did you feel going through that?
Good. Pretty good. It's not like I'm pretty confident with the stuff. Like my problem is, like I had mentioned to you before Ruben came on here, is, which anecdote should I use, or which interactive thing should I use? But also I think, some of those stories I told could fit in the other parts. And and I think maybe you have mentioned, after you go through it 10 times, you sort of have a better idea of the material and the timing and things like that. So
yeah, I mean,
Kelly's got a bunch of suitcases full of ideas and activities and personal stories that she brings to every workshop. It's like a truckload.
Yeah.
She uses just a little bit of it, and you're going to be the same way, Scott. It's good that you have all that, and it's fine. And I like the pieces that you infused there in the beginning today. I thought they were all appropriate, and you might decide later, you know what, I'm going to use the wake story, at a different time in a workshop, and you might not use it in the same place on Monday in front of this group as Tuesday in front of that group.
Right.
So
yeah.
I always joke too that we tell coaches, parents, not to do a post-game analysis of their players after the game. And I find myself driving home from every workshop going, oh, I forgot to use that story.
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been great there. How could I forget to mention that? We all do it. And I think it's just a matter of reading the crowd and, talking to the partner ahead of time and seeing what their needs are, what their challenges are, and, kind of feeding off the coaches in the room and deciding where to pick and choose,
Yeah.
So,
I thought as I was going, in that where I used the wake story, a couple of the other, I forget is her name, Livingston? I don't know. Yeah. And she did that activity where she asked the people to write in the front cover of the book, what would they say about you? And then after she had them do that, at the end of the book say, what do you want them to say about you 15 years from now? And I thought that was a really good, and I was going to do it. And then I was looking at the time. And I was like,
you can't do it all.
Right.
You can't do it all.
And you might try something at one workshop and it works great, and then you might try something different at a different workshop to kind of hone your own workshop. I always say, like, there's no way I can do a workshop like Ruben. There's no way I could do a workshop like Joe. I have to do it like me. But there's definitely elements of the way Ruben does his workshops and things from Joe and things from a whole bunch of people that I watch to do these demos all the time. Ruben wasn't kidding when he says I'm like literally stealing ideas. Every time I watch these demos, I'm writing notes, and it's not a critique. A lot of times it's, wow, that's a great study. I'm going to share that. That biology part, I'm like, that's in my next workshop.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Ruben, would you like to start with Scott, and then I'll finish up?
Sure. Scott, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very strong. The first thing I noticed was how you turned on the animation, your voice. There's a change in your voice. You clicked on the PCA trainer switch, which I think is important for all of us. I love the fact that you, as you're going through the workshop, as you're sharing with us, you actually laugh. I don't know if you're aware that you're laughing as you explain something to us, and enjoying yourself, not overly serious. Just think it's great. Think the personality you bring is great, genuine and strong. I liked the mix of the non-traditional PCA stuff, the Scott pieces you put in, the cerebellum study, the funeral wake story. I thought very well placed and utilized. Coach A, Coach B. I like the Coach A, Coach B. I like that little, it was short, quick, and, Yeah, this isn't all, you don't have to just be smiling all the time, you know, and it made the point really well.
Mm-hmm.
A couple ideas to think about
Uh-huh.
on the, so 25 minutes, you know, I think that's reasonable. We're always fighting the clock, it seems, in these workshops, you know, so how do you, you know, I think there's some places where you can save 10 seconds here, 10 seconds. One is on the who is PCA slide.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't cover every bullet. There's 4 bullet points up there. We can read them. I'd highlight one of them and move on.
Okay.
You know, here's some annual numbers on PCA. I want to point out that this is one of over 2,500 workshops we do each year. Boom, and you're on.
Okay.
Okay. The same with the PCA model overview slide, which comes near the end of this section.
Mm-hmm.
Very quick. You don't need to tell us what roots is at that point.
Right.
You don't need to tell us what Elm is at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
because
these are the 3 principles, and this is how we're going to spend the rest of our time. And you move forward. So I think there's some places where you can.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Because
overall, I again want to repeat that I thought it was a very strong demo.
Yeah, I'm glad that's good feedback though, because I didn't know, you know, like, do we want that information out there then? No, especially the beginning.
Well, it is out there. It is out there. I'm looking at it right now.
Right, it's right there.
I'm looking at it. It's out there.
Yeah.
You could say none of those, and I could still absorb them. You know,
right.
So.
Right.
And sometimes people actually lean in to read more when you don't read it to them.
Right.
You know.
And Scott, on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of importance of what people take away from this workshop, how important is it for them to know that we train 3.3 million coaches a year on a scale of 1? You know, you get my point. It's
yeah.
You know, if you don't do any of this, it's still you know, you can choose not to do that.
Yeah.
Prioritizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you. That's good feedback to know.
Sure.
Thanks, Ruben. I agree. You know, you caught me off guard, and I think that's great. When you were in on the last demo, I pictured you as like kind of a quieter kind of guy, and when you came out and, as Ruben said, like flipped a switch, I love that. I think that's just awesome. We got to, you were exuding positivity, and there's nothing worse than seeing a trainer at a positive coaching workshop that's like not smiling and not being positive. So I can tell that you're living, you're walking the walk, which is really awesome. You also right off the bat, just using the phrase "we," you know, I really felt that sense of like, we're in this, we are PCA. And you know, that's, it might be a minor thing to you, but it really makes the coaches feel like they're part of this. So I thought it was really great as well. Real quick, I don't think Barbara Fredrickson wrote a book called Upward Spiral. I could be wrong. And did she write a book called Upward Spiral?
It's on the slide, actually.
It's on the slide, but it has a phrase. But is it a book too? Did she write a book?
Yeah, it's a book.
Oh, that's awesome, because I never used that in my workshops. I didn't know.
And she has a
phrase.
She has a really neat website where you can evaluate your own positivity.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, and I stole that from you, but I was like, I wanted to ask on that because I wasn't sure. All right. So the other thing I really liked the Coach A, Coach B. I think you could have gone one little quick step further with it, because I think it's a great example. I loved it when you said both of them are positive coaches, but then you turned it to winning right away. And I love that point that they both want to win. And that's exactly what it's about. Today, we're going to talk about which one is more effective in helping your team perform at their best. Like, just a suggestion. I think just because one of them obviously looked negative and one of them obviously looked positive, and I love the way you said both of them can be positive coaches. You know, which method is more effective? We're going to talk about that today. You know, it's just one more little, I would have been a little bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I love the cerebellum, the BioGeek stuff. That is your strong suit. Use it. I think it's awesome. I mean, that kind of stuff, like those kind of studies are what makes me lean in and be like, that is awesome. Because we had another person that's a graduate student at University of Kansas, and he must have taken about 3 or 4 minutes to discuss a study that he did with Dr. Mary Fry on measuring cortisol levels in athletes, teaching them how to juggle. And like, to me, I use that in my workshops now, because to me, that's fascinating that negativity, we know obviously affects athletes emotionally, but it affects them physically. And I think that's something that coaches, you have expertise in that they don't. And I think that's a really powerful part to put in there. So I appreciated that. And also, I really like the way you explained that why negativity works. You talked about screaming and yelling does get results, but that's not why they won't be motivated to do it. And I thought that was just you explained that really well. I've heard a lot of coaches say like, it really works, but it's not what we want to do. And, I think there's more than just, it's not what we want to do. It's that you're not going to get the kids motivated to work on their own. And I think you hit that point really well. And, and when you said too, PCA is trying to change the perception that negative coaches are better. And it's a lot about perception with negativity. So I really liked the way you did that as well. George Washington study, I think that was cool too. I think you spent a little bit too much time on that one because we already talked about one study. I don't know if you want to put two studies right in the beginning, maybe just stick with one. If you have a specific example of a player that you coached, that you saw the power of positive work in that player, maybe that might be a story to add in there, because so far, I don't really know what you coach after 26 minutes. I'm not really sure. You said 40 plus years of coaching, but I don't know what sport you coach.
Right.
And I don't know what ages of player you coach. I'm not connecting with you with your coaching experience, which might be something you want to put in a real brief, quick story at some point along the line.
And I was thinking some of that is in the intro.
It is.
It would come in there, but it wouldn't be the details of like what you're saying. I could more to make it more sort of personal, like you were mentioning.
Yeah, but again, I think you did add a personal element by talking about your dad. Mm-hmm. So I keep that in because I think that just is in line perfectly with talking about your legacy. That was your father's legacy. And I love the fact that he also said he didn't want to make money off of this. And how many coaches are going to be sitting in the room with you going, wow, I'm making tons of money off of this right now. But I think that was a really good point to make. And, he just wanted kids to play. And then the one guy that came back and said, your dad was one of the greatest influences in my life because I wasn't good enough to play and he put me in the game. I mean, that to me is powerful. And I think that's a story that coaches are going to remember the next time they want to keep the kid that's not very good on the bench.
Yeah.
And, that would make me think twice when I have a bunch of kids sitting on the bench. Wow. I remember that guy from PCA did that talk about his dad. And, it's just something that would connect me emotionally. And I think that was really good. I like that a lot. So I think a blessing and a curse is that you have way too much information and too much experience. And most of the coaches that we have going through to be a PCA trainer that have 30, 35, 40 years of coaching experience, it's actually hard for you because you have to pick and choose what to do. But if you can hone in on that, and once you get a couple workshops under your belt, it's going to be phenomenal because you're going to be so flexible to be able to pull a story if somebody asks a question and pull an example, and you've got so much to share. The challenge that I want you to work on, Scott, is pulling things out of us.
Okay.
Because I don't think you asked us a question until about 13 minutes in was the first question that you asked of us.
Right.
So, I think it's important for the coaches in the room to feel like they have a voice pretty early on. So you might do something about asking them how many years they've been coaching, asking about the greatest challenge.
I actually forgot that.
That's fine.
I did want to do that.
That's fine.
And
I just think it's going to help the coaches to feel more open to answering you later. Sometimes if you wait too long to ask the coaches a question, they're in listening mode for 20 minutes. Ask a question, it's like crickets. But if they feel like it's an ongoing conversation, you're going to get a lot more back and forth and a lot more input from them.
Yeah.
Kelly, can I say something about that?
Please.
The 13 minutes was probably the first open-ended question that Scott asked us where we really had a chance to express more than a yes or no, agree, don't agree. Because he did ask us, Coach A, Coach B, which one is positive? You did ask a question.
Yeah.
The way, and I like that activity, don't get me wrong. The way the question is posed on the slide, what is positive coaching? Where is it?
I know where it says.
Yeah. And in the trainer notes, it's ask the group, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase positive coaching? That's open-ended. And and it's fine if you don't use it that way, but then you have to do what Kelly said, is find another place to actually have us talk to each other.
I actually I think that's a good place to do it. I agree with you guys. I was worried about time, and And I even thought about Coach A and Coach B saying, well, why do you think Coach A is the positive coach? And why do you think Coach B is the negative coach? And, you know.
Well, Scott, what you're talking about is the typical trap that PCA trainers faces. They want to cover everything.
Yep.
So what do you cut out? Cut out the interaction. I'd rather have you cover less. And Kelly, I know Kelly would rather have you cover less and keep the dialogue, the interaction going. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to know that.
Yep.
So you got the first one out of the way. Check the box under your belt.
Yeah.
So I really do believe that this first demo is more for you, not for us to evaluate you or critique you, but just for you to get the first one out of the way. The next demos are about the principle, and that's where we want you to really focus in on the tools, because this is what the coaches came for. The coaches came to hear, how can I coach better? How can I help my players win more games? How can I help them, all the challenges that the coaches have. So the principle section is a little different. It's not the sales pitch. It's not pushing positivity. It's giving them information, having them wrestle with it, and then having them actually think about and practice the tools, because we want to motivate them to run out of the workshop and go use them. So
right.
We get to the principle section. We can't just talk to them about the principle. We got to make it real for them, so they want to go out to the field or the court the next day and say, I'm going to try this. It's a little different, but I'm going to try it because the guy yesterday at the workshop told me this would work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I'm looking forward to seeing how you handle that section.
Yeah, cool. That'll be good. I think some of the ideas too, once I have all of the, trying to present everything, like a lot of these stories, like I had mentioned, or even ideas to interact with people can go through. It'll be easier when I'm doing all of it, I guess,
Yeah, that's sometimes why I put people through this, because I figure if you can do it this way, you can do it in front of live people at a workshop. This is actually more difficult than doing it in front of a live workshop.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
I have no problem with like crowds or people.
Good.